Hey, Chandler Bolt here, and joining me today is Sloane Ketchum. Sloane is one of our coaches here at SBS who's been leading our new program. It's called PR and Speaking for Authors. She's been a guest on over 50 podcasts. She's spoken on stages with over 3,000 people, generated 50 grand in revenue from one stage, all kinds of PR and speaking wins. So a lot of the stuff that she's teaching, she has done this, and she has seen this done at self-publishing school at a really, really high level. She's doing amazing work with our PR and Speaking for Author students. She's also the author of a book called Beautiful Girl, You Can Do Hard Things, which I just love that title and that tagline. She's coached over 150 SBS students and almost 2,000 hours spent coaching our students, and a lot of which in this area. So I'm very excited for this interview, and kind of we're going to be talking about publicity, PR, whatever you want to call it. We're going to talk about publicity and speaking and using that specifically to sell more books, to grow your business, and all those things, and kind of a lot of lessons that she's learned. So what should you do? What shouldn't you do? What are the things that most people mess up? We'll be covering a lot of that in this interview. Sloane, really great to have you.
So great to be here, Chandler. Thank you so much for having me. I'm pumped. This is going to be so exciting. Yeah, I'm just excited to dive in.
So how did you, refresh my memory, how did you originally even find SPS and then obviously start working here as a coach like that? I remember that part well, but how'd you even end up in the SPS world?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I was online stalking this guy named Chandler Bolt. I don't know if you heard about him. I might have caught him on, I don't know where.
Never heard of him.
Heard about this guy? No, I was following SPS and just everything that you've been doing for a while. I wanted to write a book, got on the email list, watched a webinar, right? Like everybody else. And then an opportunity popped in the inbox, and it was the right time, right place. And I thought, if there is anywhere else in the world that I'd want to be and partner up with and be a part of our culture and our community and like what we're doing here at self-publishing school, like this was it. And it just fit and it jived, and I've been here ever since.
That's great. And so if you're listening to this, if you're watching this and you're thinking you're in that similar boat, email my assistant or email us and let us know you want to work here, because we're always looking for really, really talented people to join the team, and obviously growing quickly and all those things. Why PR and speaking? Why publicity and speaking? Like, in your eyes, why do you see this as something that's important for authors? So whether it's in the launch phase, whether it's in the post-launch, sell more books or grow your business phase, like why is it important? And maybe even what are some of the biggest wins that you've seen from some of your students that you're most proud of or excited about?
Oh man, you know, my smile just gets really big, right? When you start talking about wins of our students, like it's such a reminder every day of why we come to work, why we do what we do. So I'm excited to dive into that. And I guess I'll just say why PR and speaking. Listen, I was just on a coaching call, go figure. And I was telling one of our students, like, listen, this is the fastest way to where you want to go. It's also the least amount of money, because, you know, we can get down the rabbit hole online of everybody wanting us to spend money here and do this and do that. But when you have a talk that converts, especially for an author, when you've got a book, and listen, I don't know if we're going to dive into this today, Chandler, but even if you're working on your book, okay, so let's like debug that myth right now. If you're working on your book and you have an outline, you have a talk that we can help you to convert. When I say convert, people are often like, what does that mean? Well, hey, for authors, if this is the business that you want to build, if this is what you want to do, whether you want to be a career author and write more books, or you want to be like Chandler, right? And write your book and then build a course and build a company or whatever that is, PR and speaking is the easiest way. It's like the lowest common denominator in the best sense of the word. It's an even playing field, right? You just have to learn the skills and do the work that we talk about. Build your reps, build your muscle, and get out there. And guess what? You can do it right away, especially in this time that we're in, that Chandler, you and I know this isn't going to change, right? Things are going to change in the way that are setting our students up for tons of success.
So you see this as if I have an outline or rough draft, if I'm about to launch, but then also if I'm growing my business, is there any other parts that you've seen people join and have success, like specific to using this?
Yeah, for sure. You know, students that are getting ready to launch, right? Getting ready to go into that launch phase of their book. using PR and speaking as a way to say, hey guys, like, this is my message. This is what my book is going to be about, whether it's join my launch team or, you know, grab the book in a particular launch phase. If you have the skills to build your podcast list or your virtual summit list, your book launch to bestseller, it's like a rocket fire shot to the top, right? You're going to really be able to run into that launch with a lot of confidence, knowing that you're going to hit all those goals that you want to hit.
100%. And that's the part that I think a lot of people overlook, is they think publicity, you know, podcast interviews, speaking, all that stuff. That's the thing that I need to do after my book, or maybe never. And I mean, I just think if you look at all the most successful book launches, especially traditionally published, they go on a book tour, but it's just actually a podcast interview tour.
Exactly.
And publicity and speaking is a huge part of the launch. And so I think that's just a misconception that people think is, hey, after the launch, whatever, and sure, that can help, but it's so important. And it's funny, so the timing on this interview. I just interviewed this morning, Leif Babin, co-author of Extreme Ownership. And he talked about this exact same thing. It's he was on Fox News multiple times. And I asked him a lot of questions about book marketing and selling books, and he kept coming back to publicity. It was like, you know, Fox News and this other thing and this other thing. And also the importance of targeting that publicity on where are the eyeballs, and all publicity opportunities aren't created equal, and kind of all those things. So it works as part of the launch. It's super important. And we're going to get into X's and O's here in just a little bit. Right before we do that, favorite student wins, because we didn't totally get to that. What some of your favorite stories?
Favorites, you know, we had Dr. Sonia come in, just completely blow it out of the water, be consistent, show up, do the podcast, do the virtual stages, physical stages, launch then into a course, you know, bring in over 80K in revenue. That was huge win. Miranda Jo Davis really came in to us, and she had a physical studio doing yoga. Pivoted, went virtual, went online, got all types of PR, Proverbs 31. Like, I could drop a lot of names, right? Which it's kind of fun too. Our students have been featured in Huffington Post, you know, just some Forbes.com. Like, we're killing it. I say that with a humble heart, but our students are getting what they need to show up in a time that's changing. And they're going, okay, well, how can I have this work for me? As opposed to, this isn't going to work for me, right? And one thing, as we, Bridget, listen, the list of success can go on and on and on. We've had students come in, and I'll tell you, here's what gets me, right? When somebody wants to speak, they want to do this, but they don't really know how, or they feel like they'll come channel. I know you've heard this too, or they'll be like, I don't know if my story is like newsworthy, right? I don't know will somebody want me on a podcast? And busting through that myth that, hey, if you've got something inside of you, that this is a message that you decided to put in a book, then somebody wants to hear it. And besides that, somebody needs to, right? Somebody's waiting for you. So let's get at it. Like, let's not sit back and wait for somebody to say, hey, would you be on my podcast? Hey, would you be? That doesn't happen yet, y'all. You got to wait to be Mr. Chandler Bolt here, but we got to work to it, you know, and that's what we teach. It's a sifting and sorting process, right? Like, if you feel passionate about that mission and that message that you have, then let's get after it. But there's a system behind PR and speaking, which is kind of what you were talking about. Yeah.
And so a big takeaways there's a system and a process to follow. You have to be proactive, not reactive. Because I know kind of joking, it's like, unless you're Chandler, well, even for me, I watch people, they're on all these other things. It's like, oh yeah, I just haven't been intentional about that. I haven't taken the time. I haven't had people on the team take the time. I know one of the my big takeaways when I interviewed Robert Kiyosaki on the Self-Publishing School podcast was, he said the first person that he hired was a PR person, full-time PR person. I was like, oh, that's super interesting. And then I was talking to a friend, and he was like, oh yeah, I heard that same exact thing from Sarah Blakely of Spanx. Like, that was the first person that she hired was PR. And so again, process, you need to be proactive. But then also, I love what you were saying with the using Sonia and Miranda, because they could not be two totally different. It's like Christian girl in a yoga world. And then I think it's
Sex.
helping people have better sex.
Own
Yeah.
your sexuality now. Yes, totally.
Like, oh, and especially, is it targeted at older people or all ages?
Target towards midlife women owning their sexuality. Totally different. Yeah. Have better
Two
sex.
very different. Yeah.
Christian girl in the yoga world, right? You can do
Yeah.
it all.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's go X's and O's here. I'd love to kind of
Okay.
break some of this down. And I want to break this into 3 parts. Obviously, as we work people through the PR and speaking for authors program, we have kind of 7 milestones or checkpoints, but I want to kind of summarize these. We'll call it 3 kind of big buckets. So number 1 is getting clear on your hook. Number 2 is booking gigs. So whether that's podcasts, whether that's publicity, PR, whether that's speaking gigs and things like that. And then there's the monetizing piece. So how do you make sure this actually helps you sell more books or actually helps you grow your business? And I want to break down those 3 parts and kind of as we walk through here. So we'll start with number 1 in your hook. And we talk about that a lot. What is a hook? How do I know if my hook's any good? How do you come up with a good one? Like, what are kind of some of the lessons that you've learned from walking students through this process and that we can teach here?
Yeah, that's good. Okay. Oh man, getting after your hook is actually one of the first things. Obviously, it's milestone. We're grouping it in milestone number 1. Why is that? Because there's so many things that come under that. Before we even get into what the hook is, it's like, do you know who you serve, right? Who do you most want to serve? Who's your ideal avatar and what do they want? So we go through a little bit of that and then we start to create the hook. Because if we create a hook, and basically what a hook is, it's your red flag, right? It's your sentence that says, hey, stop scrolling. Hey, you're going to want to watch this. Hey, listen to me because this is the unique thing that I have to offer to the world. Okay, that's your hook. There's a nitty gritty process in which we go ahead and give you an examples. There's traditional, PR ways in which we build your hook. So, are you new? Like, we basically take your message and make it newsworthy. I think that would be the simplest way. And then you want to have multiple different hooks. So I say it like this. People often hear things in different ways, right? Or you say one thing and they hear something else. Your ideal avatar needs to hear your message one way and different ways every day. Okay. So we help you to create multiple different hooks so that you can go out and then you have the ability, Chandler, to then pivot between different podcasts. So if this podcast has my ideal avatar, but they're particularly talking about this, we want you to be able to have a hook so that you can say, hey, here's my pitch for you. Hey, here's my pitch for you. Listen, you're saying the same thing, right? We're just saying it in different ways so our ideal avatars can hear it. So that's the hook. That was the shortcut version. There's so much into that. But basically what I can say is when you nailed your hook and you've got 3 or 4 that you can pull from in your little PR speaking basket, I don't care if you're on a plane, a train, or an automobile. If there's somebody there that you want to pitch to, you're going to be able to, right? You'll get booked right away.
100%. Yeah, this is so great. And as we transition in number 2 here, I mean, this is exactly what I do and what we've done. I mean, there's the kind of go from blank page to published author in as little as 90 days. Like that would be my hook. But then, if I'm going to speak to an audience of chiropractors, it's grow your practice, double the profitability of your practice using a book. How to go from blank page to published author in as little as 90 days, right? If I'm speaking to a group of, like say, if we're, our children's book course, it's, Marcy doing that webinar. I think it's how to write a book that children will love to read and parents will love to buy, or parents will be proud to buy, right? That's a hook. And so hooks show up everywhere, whether it's in PR publicity, your webinars, all those things. It's super important to nail those. Now, let's move into the next piece, which is booking gigs. So maybe it's your first podcast, your first physical stage, your first, like you're on local TV, radio. How do you work with people, and how do we work with people to help them get their first win ASAP? So what should people focus on there in terms of getting their first win as fast as possible? Yeah, well, we have an amazing system that we call it's our 3 R's, right? And we get right into it: research, reach outs, and referrals. And this is a process that Chandler and the team, we use every day. I use every day. That's how, we book our podcast and our webinars and all the things. And it really comes down to a sifting and a sorting process, I like to call it. It's
we also use the term of it's the rung of the ladder, right? We talk about building your reps. There's a specific way you want to go about your research. So Pedro, who's huge on our team and kind of sifting and developing partnerships that you guys see out there, he has really come in and helped us to implement a very unique, I'm almost going to say, Chandler, it's like a templated system that we have so that it doesn't matter where you are or who you are, right? You can come in, do the research, create your list, create your nifty 50, we call it, go ahead and get that down, and then we just get after it. Now, here's a big part that I really want to emphasize. It's like, that can be almost a silo process, right? And it's the work. It's like, sometimes we think about, I want to get on that, I want to get on that podcast or whatever. And we do identify, hey, what's your number one PR goal that you want to have? Okay. And that's how we start building out that list. So if you tell me I want to get on Oprah, all right, honey, we're going to get to work. Like, if you want to get on Oprah, then we're going to make a list, and so we get dialed in. But again, I don't know, I just keep on coming back to the system that we have of those 3 R's. And we just go over that. We hold each other accountable too. I think that's what's important. That's kind of what I was going to say here. We really work together. Our PR and speaking team, or family, I like to call it, is a group of people that are really passionate about their message. And they come in every group call, every one-to-one call going, okay, here's what I did. These are the reach outs. These are my no's, right? We celebrate the no's. I want you to get fast no's so we can get them out of the way. And then we can go, yes, you got that. You got that. We start every call off with a win, because I want to know, like, we're going to be able to see all of that reach out and the research that you did. Like, the fruit is there. We just got to sift and sort. Does that make sense? That's that second part. That's the magic behind booking gigs.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. And I love to celebrate the no's. And then when you're coming back to the 3 R's, research, referrals, and reach outs, the referrals piece and advocates. And who do you know that has a podcast? Who do you know that works at the local TV station or the local newspaper 100%. Or that runs the events for the local chamber of commerce, right? Like, a lot of places, a lot of times that's one of the fastest ways to get your first wins. And so we have people as kind of part of the process, and we've got a webinar all about this process. I'll tell you about it at the end, where if you want to learn more about this process, we talk about that on the webinar, which is coming up with your three to five advocates list, and start reaching out, and then circling this all the way back, getting no's as quickly as possible. Because to me, getting a no as fast as possible is almost as good as getting a yes. Because it's a feedback loop, and it's, as we would say, core value: fail fast, fail forward, fail often. That's right. One of our self-publishing school core values. It's the same concept here, but getting to the no quickly. Well, let's move into bucket number 3 here: monetizing. So, all right, I've gotten clear on my hook, which, oh, by the way, it's important when you're getting clear on your hook that your hook aligns with what you said. Who do you serve, and what is your end goal? Because if it doesn't, nothing else matters. Like, you can't recover from that. So you got to get clear on that. But now that we have, I guess you can recover from it, but not with that, not after the fact. You're going to have to try again with the next thing. But so moving into bucket number 3, the monetization piece.
My favorite part.
What are the types of things that you teach people to maybe their goals? Because I feel like there's 2 paths kind of. It's, I want to sell more books using publicity and speaking. I want to grow my business using speaking and publicity.
Yep.
How do you do that? How do you monetize? And what are some of the things that you walk people through?
Yeah, I'll just, so first of all, it's one of my favorite parts. Okay. Because it is. I like it. And I think it gives us some really, like, some clear focus and some measurable numbers, whether that's books or whether that's, revenue into your business, right? Talks that convert to cash or book sales, basically. So there are multiple different ways that we can go about this. And ideally, it's about what you want. Okay. So first of all, speaking, right? We can get paid to speak. So that's like, hey, here's a fee, come and speak. Honestly, rare and far and few between right now, in that we're seeing. Okay. So there's that. And then there's also, hey, let me be a guest on this webinar. Let me be a part of a virtual summit or a virtual talk. Let me get on the podcast. Those things don't automatically generate revenue. Okay. But what we talk about is you're building your following, you're building your list. Either way, this is a long-term game, right? PR and speaking, as it pertains to converting into cash, should become like the air you breathe. I want it to be like just a part of your marketing plan. You're always going to have podcasts on the books, virtual summits on the books, and then you're going to start to be able to measure, right? Chandler, you're going to be, when your podcast airs, oh, 100 people downloaded my book for free. Oh, 100 people joined my wait list for my course. Oh, 100 people. And then you can start doing those numbers around what converts from there. What we like to get, like the foundation that we really want to give our PRNS family or students is that PR and speaking 100% is going to convert. It just converts differently per the different way in which we deliver it. Now listen, if you're going to get teed up for a webinar where you're making an offer directly at the end, oh honey, we are going to have fun there, right? Because your talk, like that's a short-term solution, right? You're going to see that effect after that hour webinar. But here's the thing, if you've done the work, the opt-ins for your webinar, the people that said yes because you put them in something after you were on that stage or after you were on that podcast, when you go to your list and say, hey, I'm doing a free training, right? I'm going to do this webinar. That's the magic. That's where then you can see how all of that converted. And then guess what? We don't leave you there. Then on that webinar, you're on point. You're on point, you're on cadence. You know how to make a strong offer. You know how to gauge that and to make calls to actions to the people that you best want to serve, because your hook is dialed in and you're ready to go. And that's what Sonia did. That's what our students have done. So yeah, that's the converting part in a nutshell.
That's great. Yeah, 100%. And I love how you said that it's getting clear on the one thing that you want people to do next. And that's where I see, whether it's our students or just people in general, it's if you hop on a podcast and you don't know what's the clear thing, and then I'm gonna say, here's what to do next. I mean, lesson within a lesson, I know exactly what's the one clear thing that we want people to do after this interview. It's like, hey, check out the webinar. And that's if you're looking for the free resource and you want help, or if you want to work with us, here's exactly what to do next. Book a call with the team. We'll talk to you about what that looks like, right? Yep. So it's like, be clear on the logical next step that serves people, that helps people, and that leads them to doing business with you, or maybe that's buying your books or things like that. Can you talk for just a second? Because I just really want to make sure that people understand the implication from a book sales perspective. If we're talking speaking, because I think people get like podcast, got it. Publicity, got it. How can people use the speaking side of things to sell more books? And maybe even, because I know Sean has some good content, Sean Sumner, on how his daughter, one of our youngest students at SPS, 8-year-old Emma Sumner, she has like a $250, $400 keynote fee at local schools, and then we'll end up selling $1,000 worth of books. How does that work, and how can authors use speaking to sell more books?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, just to kind of jump off of Emma there, we have, students in PR and speaking that were before showing up at libraries, right, with books, and we did back of the room sales. So we really helped them to figure out that model, which is kind of like the Emma model. We get a small little speaking fee, and then we can do back of the room sales. Tons of opportunities to drive people directly from a webinar or podcast or whatever it is directly to their actual book. Taking them back to your website, your landing page, where they get the actual book, where they buy it on Amazon. I mean, tons of opportunities to do that. Back of the room sales, like, it's huge. And just because it used to be in physical, people forget that we can do the same thing in virtual. So the call to action then becomes, buy my book. Did you love that? That was great. Buy the book. It really, I guess what I would say about that, Chandler, is that sometimes we like to overcomplicate the PR and the speaking process. And ultimately, it really is simple. It's knowing what you want, getting after it, and using a model that is templated for you. And there's a system that's proven, and you plug in and you play.
That's it. 100%. Hey, we're in the home stretch here. So I want to kind of talk types of people that you've seen get the most out of this program. I want to talk
Sure.
biggest mistakes that you've seen people make and kind of lessons learned, all that stuff. So let's start with, what types of, I guess maybe a two-part question. What types of students have you seen get the most success through the program, and maybe have even been the most fun to work with? And then what types of what types of people need this? Like who needs to implement this for their book or for their business?
Okay. So first, I would say, gosh, oh man, it honestly, it really is hard to narrow it down, because I would say that the type of person that comes in, they're, as far as like their business and what they do, vast. Anywhere from mortgage broker coach to fiction author, multiple series, that kind of thing, right? Fantasy fiction. So wide a range of people that can use PR and speaking, that it works for them. I'm going to take it down to the core of it. Listen, the funnest and the most challenging and engaging students to work with are the ones that are committed to their mission. They know what they want. They're going to come in, look at the system, trust that it's worked. We've got proven proof, I guess is the word, and be willing to do the work, Chandler. Like, if you're going to come in, one of the mistakes, and think that you're going to get on Robert Kiyosaki's podcast tomorrow and you've never done any, I'm sorry, sir, but that's not going to work. And we're going to tell you the truth, right? But if you say, hey, that's my goal, and you're willing to do this work, the rung of the ladder that Chandler calls it, then you and your coach, you and I, we're going to belly up and we're going to get it done, right? If you're willing to work through the mindset blocks, because let's be real. The whole imposter syndrome, the whole, is anybody going to listen to my story? The whole, is this going to work for me? Listen, sir, sister, I get it. And you're going to have those, right? But you're going to have to be willing to walk through it. And if you are, then 100%, we're going to have a blast. We're going to get to your number one speaking PR goal, right? Or your revenue goal or your book goal. No doubt about it. But if you're going to let those things get in the way, then this is an accelerated course, Chandler. Like, right? We get it done. So you got to be willing to do the work. That's it. And then and I guess that kind of answers the question too, around like, who is this not for? Or, it really comes down to a mindset thing and a willingness to do the work. As far as like what business you're in or what your book's about, listen, there's a podcast or there's a virtual stage for just about anybody. So we can make that work. You just got to have the map.
Absolutely. That's great. Kind of in the home stretch here, final question. So what are the biggest mistakes that you see people make at the start? So obviously, they join the program and there's, a kickoff call, kind of a clarity call with you or one of our other PR and speaking coaches. Like, what are the biggest mistakes that you see people make at the beginning of that process? And maybe you have to walk them through on that call, or even if someone's listening to this, watching this, and they're thinking about joining or they just joined, what do they need to do to set themselves up for success prior to that call?
Yeah, I would say it comes down to knowing who you serve. That's the number one. Doing the work on your hook, your pitch, as we call it, really getting clear, laser focused. And the saying is true. I know it's like, whatever, we got to come up with something new, but like, the riches are in the niches, right? So we have to get specific. I think one of the number one things is when somebody comes to the first group coaching call, because that's what they'll do. You get to introduce yourself to everybody else and give your pitch and your hook, right? Is that they want to serve everyone. And I know that, right? I get it. We want to touch the world with our message. Eventually the masses will come. But I talk about creating a dressing on the door. It's like Thanksgiving, you put something on the door. Christmas, you put a wreath on the door. You need to decorate your door in a specific way so people know, this is my door. I'm going to walk through this door. It's for me. And then when they get through the door's open. People come through, right? But you got to get specific. You got to get clear on who you serve. After that, it's game on.
That's amazing. And such a great analogy. Love that. Moving past kind of the initial piece and the mistakes that you see people make at the start. So say we've gotten started. It's like, all right, I'm clear on who I serve. I'm clear on, I'm getting specific. The riches are in the niches. I've got my Thanksgiving or Christmas or Hanukkah or whatever sign on the front of the house. People know what to expect. Beyond that, where do you see people get tripped up throughout the process? And maybe what are some takeaways or lessons learned for people who are going on this journey?
Yeah, that's good. I think, gosh, man, I think one of the things is actually something we're working on right now is actually the body of the talk. Okay, so we're talking about listen, interviewing on podcasts, we got you, we're gonna train you up, you're gonna be a pro. Now, when we're creating our talk that's gonna convert, the body of your talk, the 3 points, the what am I gonna give? A lot of times, the mistake I see, right, is that people wanna take their whole 200-page book and shove it in 60, 30, 45 minutes. Not gonna work. So I use the analogy of food because I love food too much sometimes. It's like a buffet. Your book is a buffet. If you walk into your book, there's the whole buffet. We don't want your audience to feel stuffed. You know that glutton feeling when you like ate everything in the buffet? That's me. We don't want your audience to feel like that. We want them to feel satisfied. Like, I had a little bit of salad, some ribs, and some, whatever rice, and I'm good. We want them to feel satisfied. Why? Because we want them to want the dessert. We want them to want more, okay? So that's kind of the thing we got to work on. Hey, what's the one thing in your book that you really like, you want your audience to leave knowing this? Chandler does this. I give an example a lot. I'm like, go watch Chandler's webinars. Like, he knows how to deliver just what you need and of full value. Let's get that straight too, right? This is about not leaving your audience feeling stuffed like they want to throw up, because here's what happens. You do not serve them well. They end up going, oh, I'm so full. I'm good. Thank you. I got what I need. I'm just going to sit here and digest my food and I'll be fine, right? That doesn't serve them, because there's nothing you can give somebody in 35, 40, 60 minutes that's going to change their life. They need you. They need your program. They need your course. They need the audio that comes with your book. Whatever it is, they need that. But if you leave them feeling like they're going to throw up, they're not going to be saying yes. So we want them to be satisfied. And yeah, that's a long-winded answer to that. I think it's just making sure you have a talk that doesn't overstuff your audience and leaves them feeling satisfied and wanting more.
That's great. That's so great. So I want to shift gears a little bit, and we're in the home stretch here. I feel like I keep saying that. But so Author Advantage Live, obviously, we've got an amazing event this year, depending on when people are seeing this, hearing this. Either it's coming up fast, it's about to happen, or you missed it and you need to get a ticket for next year. But specifically, Author Advantage Live 2020 virtual experience. It's going to be an amazing experience. Can you talk about, I know you and I are going to kind of 1-2 combo some things around PR and speaking. Can you talk about I guess maybe what it is, but really, what are you going to be speaking about? What are we going to be speaking about from a publicity and speaking perspective? And also, why should people come? Why should people get a ticket, take 2-3 days out of their life to actually show up to Author Advantage Live?
Yeah, that's good. Well, why don't I start with like why people should do it? Here's the thing: showing up, 80% is success, 20% is deciding where you show up to. So Chandler and I are here to tell you probably should show up to this event, right? This is a good one. When you show up, you say, yes, I'm ready to dive in deeper and I want more. Why come? Because you're going to get, here's the thing, what are we going to talk about? We didn't have enough time today. We didn't have enough time. Chandler was like, we're in the home stretch. We're on the home stretch. You know why? Because he wants to give you more. He wants to give you everything you need, but we literally have to go. Like soon, I see our clock ticking down. So we can't, right? So why come? Because when you come and you plug into AAL, and you guys, there's just no excuse, right? If you come and you plug in, we're going to show up and we're going to give you some of the holes that I know if you watch this back, you're going to go, okay, that's great. And then you're going to go, oh, shucks, wait a minute. How do I do that? Right? Or what do I do there? So you're going to get those holes. You're going to get those potholes because we're going to plug into you, and not just about PR and speaking, right? You're going to get everything. Like we do a lot here at Self-Publishing School. So you're actually going to get 3 dedicated days to plug in and fill in those gaps. You're going to get everything you need, right? In particular with PR and speaking, some of those holes are going to be the templates and the system you guys hear us talking about. We're going to give that to you. You're going to know exactly what to do. We're not going to hold back because we love and we want to serve our audience at the highest and best use, right? So that's it. I don't know.
It's gonna be amazing.
Yeah.
That's great. Guys, grab a ticket if you haven't already. Hopefully you're seeing this before the event, or you're listening to this before the event. Grab a ticket today, authoradvantagelive.com. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be a virtual experience that I think is just as good, if not better, as attending in person. You don't have thousands of dollars in flights and hotels and travel time and all that stuff. And for this year only, I mean, we're not planning on doing this again. Next year it'll be back to in person. So if you're seeing this after the fact, go to authoradvantagelive.com and check for details, because maybe 2021 or 2022 or whatever year you're listening to this in, you need to be there. And it's just going to keep building. It's going to keep getting better. And publicity and speaking will continue to be an integral part of that. So grab a ticket today, authoradvantagelive.com. Let's pull this around and kind of put a bow on this. Knowing what you know now, Sloane, what, and for all the folks who haven't embarked on this journey yet, right? You've spent thousands of hours coaching students, and a lot of those coaching our publicity and or PR and speaking for author students. So knowing what you know now, what's your advice for that person that's starting on that journey of getting podcast booked, or getting, PR media booked, getting speaking gigs, virtual or in-person booked, and using those to somewhere books grow their business? What's your parting kind of piece of advice here for those folks?
Yeah. You can do hard things would be one. And then I would say, take it step by step, milestone by milestone. So that's not one thing, that's two. And then I would add this third thing, because I'm like Chandler, I like to keep on saying we're going to wrap it up and then not. The third thing I would say is, if it's not written, it's not real. So your priority, right, is going to be determined by your calendar. So the first thing I would do if you're coming into our course, right, is look at your calendar, and then I'm going to need you to block out time and label that PR and speaking. You do that every week for the duration of our time together. And I promise you that your priority will yield fruit 100%.
That's amazing. Those are great takeaways. Guys, if you're interested in learning more about PR and speaking, or this process, 2 resources right now that might be helpful. And we've got a webinar, which is awesome. And in that, I kind of teach the big picture. It's 45 minutes. I'd say probably be the best 45 minutes you've spent from a publicity and speaking perspective. And to find that, you can go to self-publishing-school.com/speaker-training. Okay. It's a lot of letters. So maybe just go to the show notes and check it out. You can find details along with this interview and on the site and all those things. But then lastly, if you listen to this and you say, hey, I don't need to see more training, I want to work with you guys. And whether that's Sloane or one of our other coaches and the team as a whole, all you have to do is go to self-publishingschool.com/speak. Okay. Speak, self-publishingschool.com/speak, book a call with the team. We'll take 45 minutes. You'll chat with the experts, one of the experts on the team, and they'll talk to you about your goals from a PR perspective, your challenges, and your next step. So how do you implement what we're just talking about? And then if you decide to join the PR and Speaking for Authors program, then you'll be walking through exactly what Sloane just talked about, walking through the system, the process, the material. You got coaching calls throughout, group coaching calls, tons of resources, tons of support throughout the journey. So do one of those 2 things now if you're interested in PR and speaking for authors. Obviously, we'd also love to have you at Author Advantage Live. You can grab a ticket for Author Advantage Live at authoradvantagelive.com. Sloane, this has been amazing. Really, really good. I can't wait for people to hear this, see this on the podcast and on the YouTube channel. Where can people go to find out more about you, and specifically to get your book?
That's a good question, Chandler. They can go over to sloaneketchum.com. And right now, actually, I'm giving away the book for free. So go ahead and download it, click the link. You want the book, and it's all yours.
Beautiful girl. You can do hard things. Check out the book. It's amazing. Thank you guys so much. And we'll see you in the next episode. Talk soon.